Welcome to your Monday Power Hour, February 24th. That sounds so crazy to say. February 24th. Welcome, welcome. We have lots of people here in person and a lot of people online as well. So that's a good sign. That tells me things are better than I thought for February. How was the past 2 weeks?
Canada.
I know something really special happened in the sports world.
Canada.
Canada? Can you want to say closely to a mic? Does everyone know? Everyone watched the game? No? Who watched it? Hands. If you're not going to talk, hands.
Every game.
I was in bed, and I was kind of sick. I was in bed, and then all of a sudden I hear, yeah, like screaming, and I was like, like what happened? I thought it was his offer that he also sold that night, but it was that timing was
Which
part
we
of the
did
game.
sell, by the way.
Yeah, so it was we did sell something that night, but that yell was for Canada. And then Sanek's like, we're going downtown, we're going riding. I'm like, who? Who's weed? Who's riding? Like, what's happening? Sanek was very happy. Super pumped, right?
I gotta go to bed till like 12.
That's a good thing. That's good for Canada. That's good news, right? Yeah, that's nice. Good. How about real estate wise? Who did open houses, or who's running buyers, or who has stories to tell? Sue?
Yeah, both. Definitely noticed an uptake in
You did?
while buying people, like,
Okay.
blocking out all the showings.
Okay, so like lots of
Like
activity,
offer
like can't
Lots
get
of
in,
activity.
multiple offers maybe.
I was in a multiple offer situation.
Yeah. So that's coming back. I'm hearing that for Durham, especially under the 1 million mark as well.
This was in Markham. so
Markham too?
yeah.
Okay, good.
They're still doing the under market value. And
Yeah.
holding
And it's
offers.
working, or?
Because everybody's doing it, I think, is why it's
Fair. Yeah, as long as people are used to it, right? Like, they know the strategy.
It's here in Durham, I mean, it's not everybody's doing it, so people get confused.
Sure.
So it
Okay.
doesn't work.
Yeah.
And in Durham, I did open houses Saturday, Sunday, and it was a good turnout.
Okay, good. I heard
Serious
in
buyers.
Yeah, that's good. I heard in WhatsApp somebody did open house in Innisfil, a little bit quiet, but also not a brand new listing. I also heard of, I think it was Ajax, also kind of quiet, but again, not a brand new listing. So we were talking about that last week, Claire, if that is a fact or not. If the property's already been on the market for a little bit, the open houses can be a little bit slower. I'm seeing some nods. I don't have stats on that, but that's kind of what I'm hearing. If it's a brand new, fresh listing, first weekend on the market, that's where I'm seeing the most activity. On our Oshawa listing, we had 15 groups on Saturday, another 17 on Sunday as well, and all serious buyers as
That
well.
Pickering?
That was in Pickering. Yeah,
Pickering.
Pickering 750 mark, right? So Pickering.
Sorry, it was Pickering.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't know why I said Oshawa.
I know, you were very confident in that one.
Yeah. No one even else told me anything about Oshawa, so I don't even know why that's in my brain. But
I still have 10 showings on.
it's true, yes. Yours is sold conditional, it's still showing, and you're still getting a ton of showings, and your clients are letting them through. Yeah.
How are condos doing? Does anyone have a condo townhome? Or condo? No?
No one wants to admit.
Okay.
No. Yeah.
Or leases too. Eh?
Or leases?
So anybody here do open houses at all? No, nobody here.
No, we just had the
people
reports from the group
you,
earlier.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. So what's the general feel? You guys feel that people want to wait for something to happen, or people are out there shopping, or what are they doing? What's the general gut? What are your clients saying to us?
I feel like people want to look, but I think they're getting options now, which is good. But I don't know if they know how to make a decision.
Yeah, they're still not super quick to make the decision.
And even like on offer night last week, we had like, we had 28 showings. We had 3 offers on Monday. We didn't sell on Monday. But then on Thursday, we had another 3 offers, and only 1 came back from offer night.
And sold conditional.
It's sold conditional.
And that's kind of what we're saying. The plan A is to do the list low. You hang out for a little bit. Either you do something in a couple days, or then you change it to plan B. So that is the strategy, depending on the price in the pocket.
Just on an agent just 3 minutes ago there, he lost on an offer and he's a little confused. And his question was, the listing agent didn't have any offer dates on it, but he just had a listing sitting there. He put in an offer himself, and he didn't see offer registered. Doesn't really matter. He put an offer in, and then he gets an email from the guy saying, "Okay, thanks very much. We accept another offer."
Yeah, I got another call like that today,
So they presented the. I'm assuming that the listing agent presented the 2 or 3 offers and just picked one. Done. And it was like $15,000 more than his offer, but we're talking $1,050,000 range. And he was prepared to compete because his buyer, his buyer didn't want to buyer doesn't want to give his hand out in the first offer, expecting to sign back, and then listing agent says, "Thank you, I sold it to somebody else."
Yeah,
no,
so I
no,
had-
no, no sign back, no nothing.
No notification. I had our situation today similar, except that the person didn't put in an offer, but they did a showing, talked about it, were interested that night, sold. No notification, nothing. And so the question is, do you have to tell everybody if you're not holding offers? No, not like legally, but strategy-wise, should you not reach out to every single person that showed the property just in case to see what's out there and work for your seller?
Yeah.
Like, we should be doing that. Don't just take what you get. And actually, Sanik made a comment, because I'm getting the question now of they want to do bully offers because they're losing in multiple offers. I got that twice today. And Sanik's hearing reports that sellers are just accepting offers and not even thinking about it because they're kind of desperate. I know somebody in the room had a situation where they took a pretty low conditional bully offer. So now I'm telling people, well, now I don't know. Try your bully offer with conditions, try anything you want, because maybe the sellers are more desperate than we think. So it's not, strategy, what we thought 2 years ago, is changing a little bit today.
I had the multiple, the bidding war I was in, we sent in our offers, obviously not our final offer, but the listing agent came back an hour later and said, "Oh, my client's not going to go with anybody."
Yeah.
And that was all he said.
You know why?
And
Do you know why though?
Well, I'm assuming he didn't like any of the
They're
offers.
all too low, which
Yeah,
means
but
that they're
ours was
yeah.
decent.
It means that the gap though between what they were expecting and what they
What they
got was
wanted
too
was
far,
too
and the
far,
sellers
yeah.
weren't. They didn't have the guts enough to try to negotiate and get it up.
So, a few minutes later, I called him back and I said, "Let's work it out."
That's right.
And we got the house.
Good.
So,
Okay, that's what you should
just
do.
because he was
Yeah.
willing to walk away.
Yeah. Good.
So it's just my opinion here. Here's my opinion, but it's not based on anything. It's just an opinion. It's probably false, but you might want to turn it into something that you can in the future somewhere on there. But I'm assuming that the one I just said here, the guy that just sold the property right away, maybe you took this thing for some kind of discounted commission there and didn't want to spend any more time on it. Just get it sold, done. See you later.
Let's stop
Yeah.
working
The
on
one
it.
that Sue's talking about. We got 4 offers. Oh, we're not going to sign anything back. What kind of agent is that? I mean, they're either not experienced or they don't really know what's going on. But what they should have done is signed off, or not signed. They should have sent everybody all back. Says, let's do another round.
Yeah.
And instead, one person comes back and they get the deal through instead of getting 4 people coming back.
Imagine if you didn't come to the table and you're still
So
sitting.
so let's
Let's work.
it's work, it's salesmanship, and that's
Conditional? And they
Right.
took it?
right.
Yeah, conditional
Happening
offers are
more
back.
often
Yeah,
than you
yeah.
think,
Conditions are back. Yeah.
No.
I haven't
So
seen anything like firm sell in a very long time.
No.
So my client actually ended up accepting on the second offer night a slightly lower offer, only because the way they presented themselves was better than the other person.
Yeah, that matters too.
It's
Makes a big
stupid,
difference.
but yes.
No, it matters. You have to feel good about
You
the
have
other
to trust the
side.
other
You want to
side.
have a smooth transaction, smooth
Yeah.
closing. That kind of matters.
Caitlin talks about that all the time. We're not enemies. We're friends. We're trying to sell
That's
this
right.
house.
We're on the
Let's
same
get
side.
We got to
let's
close
get
this
on the
house
same
still.
side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to collaborate the whole way through to closing, right?
But most agents they put their egos up.
I'm glad we're
Right.
talking like this because that tells me the market's doing something.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Right?
Sue, for coming today and giving us some commentary.
So
good.
this is so things are going on out there.
Yeah.
So what you might want to think. Nobody answered my question. What's going on there, as far as the world in there? But let's just forget what is going on there. And things are happening out there. There are
happening.
things going on, right? So that's encouraging.
No, it is encouraging.
I'm going to get my stats right now, and
Yeah,
just so you
go
guys
for
go
it.
in there. So just to keep us up to speed here, we've got now, as of last night, I'm not sure about this morning, we've got 20,000 active listings right now.
You did it. You got back.
So and even like January 26th, like a month ago, we had 17,000 listings.
Mm-hmm.
So things are picking up. As far as sales go, we've got about here's the sad part, but maybe there's got to be
spin it now,
there's
don't
silver
worry.
lining anywhere, right? So last February we did, I think the whole month we did about 5,000 sales. So right now we're sitting last February we did like 4,307 sales. This is for treble, all properties, all types. And this year we're at 3,000, so it's actually down 29%.
Ouch.
Sales for freeholds are actually down 31%, and condominium sales are only down 27%.
So it's the same.
So everybody's talking about condos, but they're still down 30%. But you have to put everything in perspective, okay? So I'm comparing this from this time last year. And what happened last year? Do you guys remember what happened last year? Isn't it when the interest rate started dipping in the spring, and the market started to go down a little bit, right? So this is where we're at. So I'm not surprised that February last year, I'm not surprised we're 30% less. But if I compare the first 23 days in February to the first 23 days in January, that's more relative, right? Rather than going back a year, let's compare it to January to February. Sales for the first 23 days in February versus January. Sales for February are up 18%. For condos, they're up 19% for everything else, and they're up 19% for freeholds. So we're actually up 20% where we were the first 3 weeks in January. So that's good news.
That's a good.
Right? Back in, I wrote this down somewhere else, I'm going to guess here. Back in 2022, was 21, sorry. 2021 was the big year, right? We did 121,000 units. We did over 305 units per day. I'm trying to get everybody into this per day stuff to get an idea what the market's doing. So over 300 units per day back in 2021. And then then it dropped down in 22, it dropped down in 23, 24 to about 185. 24, 23 was about 185 deals per day for the entire year. And this year we're sitting around 133 right now. So it's not as you want to be. 185, in my opinion, would be like the bare minimum. That's about 67, 68, 70,000 sales for real estate board. So we're still below what I consider to be a decent market, but it's still the spring market, and we do have this geopolitical stuff going on, so there are reasons for it. Leases are at 17,000. They stayed out about the same, about 17,000, but leases, as far as I can see, leases are up 7% from last year. They're up, that's for condos. They're up 1% for everything else, and they're down 9% for freeholds. So condos are actually up 7%. Leases, not prices. Prices, I'm hearing that prices are dropping. Has anybody had any clients yet with have tenants, and the tenants approach them saying, "I want to reduce my rent"? Has anybody had any clients that happen?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And your advice to them is tell the tenant to take a hike? No? You negotiate, right? And what I'm reading there is that people are renegotiating maybe $100, maybe $150 a month. Is that what your experience was too?
Yeah, but I was the agent, did double-sided for that transaction.
Right.
So I just left on him, the tenant, that you send the letter to landlord.
Yep.
Landlord asked me, I
Yep.
send the comparables, and what they have done so far. I have no
Between the two of them, right? Because
Yeah, that's
you're out of it,
That's how
right?
it should be, yeah.
Okay. So they got to be they're out there, right? So that's good. So the market again, it's not the best thing, but there it is. It's fine. I'm getting stuff in my email. Cash for your house. Anybody seen that? GTA housing buyers. Cash for your house. Get all these things here, and you're seeing them all over the place. Little signs out there. Cash for your house. Cash for your house. So that tells me the market's picking up again. So we're into the spring market.
It's interesting that they did a handwritten letter, but also a printout on the back.
Yeah, and that's the strategy. They make it look kind
But
of real,
the
but
back
also,
kinda
I
ruined
mean,
yeah.
Back of it,
You can't see it here, but it's handwritten letter. It's not really handwritten. It's computer generated.
Yeah.
So it makes it look more personal. But on the back, it's all computer. So it's pretty. But they're doing it, right?
yeah.
I just ran the membership stacks, just statistics. In January, remember I said we're going to lose about 10% of the agents are going to leave the business. So we started off around 74,000. Today we've got 68,000. So that's what I thought would happen, right?
It's more good news.
It's kind of sad. But
You know, I mean, we're in a professional industry. We want,
No,
professionals.
a lot of these people are what they call for sale by
it's
agents.
hard times, yeah.
And the reason we got their license was so they could sell their own house. That was the sole purpose.
Yeah, and they're not doing
We
that
saw
anymore,
that a
right?
lot in 2021.
Yeah.
New home buyers are nowhere to be found. This is the new home builders. They're saying that their sales are down quite a bit. Toronto area, January, new home sales are near record low despite excessive inventory. So there's lots of inventory, excessive sales. They're down about 77% overall, the 10-year average. Condos themselves are down 58%, and freeholds are down 63%. That's new stuff, right?
Yeah, I'm reading that the new stuff is down, record breaking. Like it hasn't been this low in like 40 years. Well, they're not going to build, right? So right now they're not building, and you're going to see the consequence of that in 3 years. And I think that's where you're going to see the resale stuff start. Prices are going to go up again, right? But yeah, it's going to hurt the market. Costs are super, super high right now. If tariffs do come into play, that's going to impact it in a big way as well. But I'm also reading, tell me if this is true or not. Like, do you guys have pre-construction that are closing where the appraisal came in hundreds of thousands of dollars lower, but the banks are sort of not paying attention to that and they're still closing? Or what are you seeing? Because I'm reading that some banks, even though they get the appraisal, there's an example of a $2.2 million condo in Leslieville. It appraised like $400,000 less. And then bank said, no problem. They close it, which essentially, Claire will know this, becomes like a zero down payment mortgage now at that time. And that's what was happening less than zero. And that was happening in 2006, I'm reading. But because from what I'm hearing, people are not closing and they're forfeiting deposits and they're in trouble. But I'm reading that not everyone's in that situation. And the banks are making some concessions on that appraisal and things are actually closing, which may tell you that they're looking at long-term value and that they're okay with the short-term value today being a little bit less, knowing that in the long run, maybe that appraisal will come back up. But I'm seeing both sides of that now as well.
So in this particular case, a $2 million condo, it appraised at 1.6, and the bank did what they call a blanket mortgage. So they did a blanket mortgage on the whole building, and they did the appraisal for $2 million, even though it's 1.5. Yeah. So the guy's got a $2 million mortgage on a $1.5 million condo.
Are they the big lenders?
This is Royal Bank.
Yeah, it's a lender.
It's RBC. In this particular case, the builder did a blanket mortgage with RBC, and that's what RBC is doing. The other builders who are smaller builders, different builders, maybe they won't be doing that.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point as well.
Yeah. Cool. You're it.
I'm up. Oh gosh. We had a lot of snow last week, and I have a question. When you have a tenanted property, who is responsible for snow removal? The tenant or the landlord?
The real estate agent.
Or the real estate agent.
Lately, yeah, right?
The real estate agent, right? The tenant's calling the agent saying, I need my snow removal. What did you say, Merle?
Yeah, because
Okay, and maybe it depends on what you put in your agreement. And can a clause in your agreement alone be suffice to cover snow removal in Ontario?
It's a landlord's job.
It's a landlord's job. So under the Landlord Tenant Board Act, the landlord is responsible for maintaining safe zone, including snow maintenance. However, a lot of clauses we see in an APS on schedule saying the tenant's responsible for their own snow removal. However, that alone will not be enforceable according to LTD. So if you want your tenant to be responsible for their own snow removal, that's okay, but you actually need a whole separate contract. In addition to your agreement to purchase and lease and your actual lease agreement, you need a whole, not a schedule, like literally a separate contract that says who is responsible for snow removal, if you're gonna leave supplies like salt or shovels, or who's responsible for that, and you outline everything, even the timing of how often it should be taken care of as well, and that's a whole separate agreement that you would need if you want your tenant to be responsible for any part of the snow removal. Otherwise, it is 100% the landlord's responsibility to make sure that the driveway is clear and free, and then you also have responsibility for the city parts of your driveway, like your sidewalks and in front of your driveway. And Toronto just last week are starting to accept 311 calls to help with that as well. I'm sure they were quite backed up, but you could call 311 to get the city part of your driveway cleared as well. So just so you know, that's a fact as well. But yeah, so if your landlord is responsible, the tenants can do it, but you need a separate contract in order to facilitate that.
They're not going to refuse to sign the contract, though.
Say again?
They're not going to refuse to sign.
Sure, yeah, you can't enforce it. So the tenant almost essentially voluntarily agrees to take care of their own snow removal, but under some requirements as well. That's true. Some people were surprised about that, so that's okay. I'm reading a lot about the market, just like Claire said, there's a lot of headlines that are being super negative and everybody's making sort of their own bets of what's going to happen. So you have interest rate factors, we have our next one coming in March, and then you have the political stuff, the government stuff, all the economy stuff, but I think it's really important to sort of step outside of that and focus back on what your clients need. Like we're getting a lot of questions just about things that they need in general, but clients are still going to be getting married, having children, going through divorces, going through death, going through a lot of life events that none of that stuff is going to impact. And that's real estate industry for the past 40 years has been built on that, right? So stay focused on that, especially when you're reading all the negativity. We're going to get more negative news this week as well, especially because February is going to look so down. So just keep that in mind. That's my overall summary of what I'm reading about all these headlines is you're going to see condo prices falling nearing 6%, but we just read that condos are the exact same as freeholds, right? So just be really careful with what you're reading.
Condos, there's no showing whatsoever.
No showings, and what's the reason for that?
Price I reduced to $20,000 even.
Keep going. I'm reading you got to reduce it 5 to 15% every week.
That's not what it is.
I got a better idea. I have a better idea. Advertise it in Toronto Star on the front page.
Blog TO actually.
With a red
Go on
logo.
blog TO actually will be.
You haven't got enough exposure.
The market is a completely different ballgame. It's we have seen the baddest market in the 90s, but still there was a showings and there were offers. But today, no showings, no offers. That's the difference of the two different markets.
So
If you put down the price down, you will.
Come on, it doesn't work like this.
So here's a question. Here's a question not for James. Here's a question not for James though. Here's a question not for James. Somebody asks you guys, what's the market doing? What do you guys say? Hope you're not saying that Trump is.
Sales are up, it's great.
Hope you're not saying that Trump is screwing it up. Hope you're not saying that Trump.
Yeah.
Hope you're not saying that the geopolitical stuff and the Trump and blah blah blah. And, I wouldn't do anything. The market's crashed. But if that's your conversation,
Just get out of the business.
then you're not in sales anymore, right? So sales. So it's great opportunity. What a great. Every time that there's something going down, there's always a yin and a yang, isn't there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Prices go down. That means that there's good opportunities. There's always yin and yangs. Always, right? And then you have to remember motivation. Why are they selling anyways? And I've said this many times. I was talking to somebody just today on that. He says the guy's worried about this property. What's he worried about? He's worried about is the price going up, price going down. Okay, so why is he? If he's so invested in that, why doesn't he invest in the stock market? What's he doing buying real estate?
Yeah, fair.
Right? You buy real estate to raise your family and put your roof over your head and go to a nice school. And if you make a profit along the way, then that's a bonus.
It's a lifestyle. It's a living style.
But once you get into, what's it going to do? If you buy a house today, trust me, 5 years from now, something's going to be different, right? And meanwhile, you've lived in the house the whole time.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's.
But I'm also hearing I signed a bunch of cancellations last week with the reason being relisting in the spring. And I'm not confident that relisting in the spring is going to make the difference. I mean, spring's only like 1 month away, first of all. It's not that much time for a market to completely adjust itself. And I'm thinking, man, now in the spring you're going to be with the hundreds of thousands of other people also listing in the spring. So is that the best move? I don't know. I think it depends on motivation and what their goal is. I mean, if they're motivated and they have to sell, I don't think waiting till the spring is going to be the answer. If they're they've got a tenant or they're hanging out or the payments are fine, they were just testing the market, then sure, yeah, wait till spring. But I think if you've got someone that really needs to sell and wants to sell, and you have to be the one that have that hard conversation with them to say in 1 month, 2 months is not going to make or break the market. It's probably going to be pretty stable till then in terms of price. So again, motivation.
And sometimes, just to address James here a little bit here, sometimes you have to take emotion out of it and logic out of it. And if the things have been on the market for 21 days or 21 showings, reduce the price. I mean, there's no other logic to it, right?
I've done that, believe me.
Well, you haven't done enough.
No, but I get that question all the time, and almost the agents know the answer. They know what I'm going to say, but they're just looking for that idea that I had last week that's going to help sell that house, right? That magic pill. But you know my answer is going to be price. It's literally going to be price, and maybe it's 5%, 10%, 15%, something to trigger something. But it's not your pictures, it's not your description, it's not the exposure, it's not the other one that's also on the market that's also not selling. It's just price.
We've seen it so many times, right?
Yes.
You get a motivated seller that's really motivated, and they start coming back to you because the property hasn't sold. There's something wrong with the pictures; they're too dark.
Sorry.
The pictures aren't very good. The drapes
Baseboards are
drapes
dirty.
open. There's a flower pot there that shouldn't be there because so that's why it's not selling, right? It's all
Totally.
It's all price, right? But the other thing you have to remember is that you're on their side. It's not you against them. You don't have to defend anything.
Sure, yeah.
They're going to be all mad. What's going on with the market? You have to say to them, "You're absolutely right. I'm mesmerized as well. I don't like it either. What do you want to do?" And as Ryan said today,
I was just going to say that.
come up with 3 solutions, right? And Katelyn's going to talk about that.
You can talk about it now. while
Yeah,
you're
go
in
for it. Yeah.
Yeah, today they're talking about having difficult conversations with your clients, and this would be one of them where they're like, my place isn't selling, or giving bad feedback. Maybe the buyer said that the place smelled really bad, and you don't want to tell your clients because that's really mean, but it's what's going to help them sell the place. So by upfront saying, hey, your place smells, but here's a number to call. They'll come in, they'll fix the smell, or hey, your place is too overcrowded, but here's a number, they'll come remove a bunch of the junk. So instead of just giving negative news to them, like always have
Solution
3
news.
solutions, and and only one of the solutions is the solution, he was saying, but get them to pick the solution so it looks like you're all on the same page. So if you do have negative things about the price, like, hey, people are saying it's overpriced, but the solution is let's wait till the weekend and we can either drop the price and see if that brings in, we can keep the price and be patient, or X. So giving them solutions to like everything is really how to handle those conversations.
He said what we say a lot, which is, give your clients all the news. The bad news, the good news, the everything news, the nothing news. Like, just be in communication with them all the time, especially when you have a listing up right now. And I loved when he was talking about when you do have scary news, and we're so scared to, answer that call. Yesterday, I got a pretty harsh text from somebody, and I could have interpreted it totally different, but I ended up calling her, and she was totally fine. Her attitude was not negative at all. It's just a text message, but it's all about how you can perceive that. But I just called her right away, owned it. It was a mistake that I had made. We solved it, right? But
We gave a solution.
we gave the solution, we fixed it, and then I knew that she wasn't going to shoot me or punch me in the face
Or give you a disease.
I'm not going to go to jail.
Yeah.
Right? Like, these are just business conversations.
Yeah.
They're not like life threatening.
Yeah,
things.
and I think that's our fears. Like, we think the worst, but like
think
he
the
was saying
worst.
today, he's like,
Like-
what's the worst that's gonna happen? Like, they're not gonna shoot you.
Like, these are just adult words, conversations. We should all be mature enough to have these by now, right? Like, unless you do have a scary client, that's a whole different
That's a whole
conversation,
other
right?
conversation.
But yeah, like, what's the worst that can happen? You have to be an adult and get in front of these
yeah, it's
things
not
as well.
personal. If they're mad
It's
at you,
100% not
it's
personal.
just business. It's not personal.
When I got that message, my first instinct was like, oh my God, like, I suck. Like, what did I do? And then I was like, wait, this isn't about me at all. She has a listing. She's out of town. Like, there's, things that we have
Dirty
control
floor.
over. It's just, the floor is dirty. We got this. It's going to be okay. We had a busy open house, which was the good news, right? That's why the floor was so dirty. So
Yeah.
it works out. But yeah, I liked Ryan's today. It was good that he kind of talked about that as
Yeah.
well.
Did he spend that $1 million to fix that condo or not?
He talked about calling insurance, and now I have other questions, like, was it real estate
Yeah.
insurance? Is it his own insurance? Like, that should have been one of our follow-up questions to Ryan. Maybe we'll send him a note and ask. I have no idea how he solved that.
Yeah,
but-
Ryan Surahan had like a couple $100 million listing, and he left the door open, and a hurricane came and flooded the whole condo, and it cost him $920,000.
Can you imagine? Like, our problems are not that big, guys.
So our
Like,
little dirty carpet, we were like, oh, like we could have flooded the entire house.
Our GTA
but-
Durham market, we don't have 100,000
No.
million problems like
Yeah.
that. So that's
But
okay.
it just shows that there's problems in every price point.
Yeah, it's true. I was reading a little bit about some Durham stats, and if you do have clients that are not on the market today, but they're getting ready to list, you probably want to start having that conversation now. We're about to approach March. It could take anywhere from 6 weeks to 2 months to get a house fully ready, and if you want to be ready for the spring market, you have to start that right now. So that includes your listing appointment, your conversations, getting the house decluttered, getting your staging booked, getting everything kind of prepped, because that's going to take some time. So don't wait. People that are saying, I want to wait till the spring, you're in that right now. So you're in your spring prep right now to get ready. You know a lot of listings are going to come to the market. Pricing's going to be a huge deal. But start getting that going now so that when you are ready to go, you can just get on the market as soon as possible. Hopefully you have multiple listings going at the same time as well, so you can keep yourself, get organized. But you want to tell your sellers, hey, it's going to take 6 weeks to 2 months to get your house fully ready from today by the time we put that sign and get that house live on the market. So start your prep work today. And that's a great excuse for all of you to get in touch with your sellers and see who wants to sell and get that going, because it should be a pretty good,
hopefully
fun
you're
spring
doing
market.
it. Yeah. Hopefully you're all on appointments right now, because it is for the spring market right now. We're already past this market. If anyone calls you, it's not for today. It's for in April probably.
Yeah,
So.
and the only caveat to that is if you have a listing with a pool, you probably want that pool to be open. So you're probably going to get the most amount of value and interest once that pool is open and running and people can see that it's working properly. So that might be the only caveat where you want to wait till April, May, get that pool opened, and then get that house on the market and maybe do a quicker, shorter closing, because anyone buying a house with a pool also wants to enjoy that pool in the same season. So be prepped for that as
Or you
well.
don't want anyone to see the photos.
Or you want to keep it closed and say.
If you have an old pool like we have coming up where it's a 40-year-old concrete pool, hasn't been opened in 10 years, that's not going to matter so much. That pool's not going to be open
It's
this
not
spring.
going to work. Just assume it's broken.
Yeah, so that depends. Just some tales from the street. We had we represented the buyer on this particular property where it was bought as an investment property to rent out. MLS said legal basement apartment, so that's all good. We submitted our offer, we got the place. On closing day, the buyers tried to get a declaration that the house was in fact a legal apartment. And it turns out that it was a legal apartment in the 2000s, ended up being a fire, house was rebuilt. So the question is it still a legal apartment or not? Do you need to get like a different type of approval? So closing was put on hold a little bit so that they could investigate this. It all worked out in the end. There was in fact still legal approval for the legal apartment, so everybody signed off to that. Closing was delayed a couple days because of it. So the lesson to you, the lawyer actually pulled us aside and say, hey, too bad we didn't see this until closing day, but what could have helped the situation is he put something in the Schedule A that flags the lawyer to just pay a little bit more attention to what the situation is, as opposed to just using your regular clauses. Something as simple like the seller acknowledges or the buyer acknowledges that this is a legal apartment, or just something that triggers the lawyer to say, okay, let's investigate this prior to closing, not just in our title
title
requisition
search or
date,
something.
because then you only have a quick maybe 1 to 2 weeks to figure that out and solve it. So just a lesson for you, not just with legal apartments, but with anything kind of unique or unusual or something that matters that you want to call out, not just in the listing. The listing's going to hold some meat, so that's okay, but just something to trigger your lawyers to pay attention, or even just call them or tell them, like flag something to them. Don't let them wait till closing date, because that could cause some problems. And our situation was totally
Because some
fine.
sellers
but
could say, no, I'm not extending it. So.
yeah, exactly. So just the lesson was use your schedules, like use your clauses to highlight things and to protect yourselves and to just trigger things for lawyers to ask.
Just to put it in perspective here, so all the offer said, no, the listing said legal basement apartment, and the offer said single family residence. The offer never made any
Because it truly
reference
is.
to the
It's
basement
still a
apartment.
single family residence, but yeah.
The offer never made any reference to the basement apartment being legal or not legal.
Shouldn't you ask for a status certificate?
So a house.
Freehold.
It's a
Yeah,
house.
it's a house, yeah.
Not a status certificate,
all
sorry.
right.
SBIS?
No. Retrofit status.
No, they said it was legal.
It is legal apartment, yeah.
Anyways, the agent didn't think it was legal because it didn't look like it was legal. Like the door itself wasn't solid
that's a whole
core,
other-
it wasn't egress and that. So the agent didn't really realize how could it be illegal. But anyways, it's registered with Pickering and it's legal, so it closed.
Good. You're gonna.
Oh, carry on.
This is for my TikTok fans. I didn't know how popular Brampton was on Instagram and TikTok, so now I gotta continue my trend. This is an update to my previous conversation about. My last week conversation was about them changing the rules to say how many occupants could be in each property. This one's a little bit different, where Brampton was going to introduce a rental license. Remember how in Toronto we have a rental license for Airbnbs? Brampton was also going to do the same thing. That caused a lot of stress. Basically, what they were going to do is anyone renting 4 or fewer units in some parts of Brampton, so not all of it, had to register with the city for an annual $300 fee. They said that more than 600 penalties had been handed out under this program, with fines totaling more than $83,000. So they were really excited about this. It's only in certain wards, 1, 3, 4, 5, 7. So like I said, not all of Brampton. And they inspected over 4,700 units. And then they even actually discounted the fee from $300 to $150 to try to get people to go get this licensing fee. Still, people were not happy about that. The pilot project did not work out so well. They ended up putting the whole thing on hold and freezing it completely. But this would have led to a crackdown of a lot of illegal, and they're estimating about 16,000 unregistered units. So maybe they'll bring it back to life, I'm not sure, but it didn't go over so well. People were just not registering still, and it ended up being a lot of fines. So.
You said 1,500 for what?
16,000 unregistered units are predicting.
The cost,
$300 a year to register for a rental license, basically.
and people still didn't
No. And then they reduced it to $150,
They still did.
and they still didn't. So that project is put on hold. They'll try to do something else again, but yeah.
You know why they didn't register? They don't want to pay. They don't want to pay any more property tax.
Yeah.
Sure.
It might be. It's a trick. It's a trick. It's a trick. Oh, it's only $150. A trick. And then as soon as you apply for it, then oh, by the way, we're going to double your taxes.
Yeah.
So that is unfair for the people who has already registered, because other people are not going to.
Yeah, that's true.
They lost the money.
I tell you though, that's Brampton. Brampton's been doing it forever, as far as I know. But Oshawa, Oshawa, just so you know, Oshawa had a fire and a bunch of people died in an illegal place. As soon as that happened, Oshawa that's it. So if you're going to rent something in Oshawa, you got to be registered, and to be registered, you got to be legal.
Okay.
And that's it. And we've had places where people have moved in like a retrofit basement, not retrofit status, and as soon as they move in, they get a knock on the door from the city. They're right on top of it. So I'm surprised Brampton's let it go so long, but they're starting to get into the same thing. So.
You're going to be popular on TikTok this week, just so you know.
Yeah, our last Brampton one is still going. I think we're almost at 300,000 views on it.
What is it
on
like?
Instagram?
Why are people so passionate about it?
People are very angry about.
I'm not a Brampton girl, so I don't really know. Like, it's what?
Yeah,
Easy
like
to
they hate it.
and they like it. So people just like the toxic. Like they like it. Okay,
It's very
cool.
toxic.
So interesting.
I can't even keep up with it.
No, it's fascinating.
Has
Brampton?
anybody disputed their property taxes?
I could ask online, and yeah, maybe people has anyone disputed property taxes before? Claire's nodding because he knows of situations. Anyone here in the room? Scott might have been involved. Have you ever had a client dispute their property taxes and won or not won? What was the result?
Yeah, I know people that go, whether they have a problem with the property tax, they go in and make a claim to pay.
Yeah.
It's not
and
that-
did
it's
they
not-
end up paying more or less?
No, they end up getting a reduction.
They end up getting a reduction.
Yeah,
Okay.
not necessarily a lot sometimes. But
Okay.
But it's not hard. I mean, you go to the MPAC webpage there, and it says if you want to dispute it, and they'll give the public 5. It used to be give you 5 free searches, and all you have to do is compare. You know, if you've got a property the same as yours and paying less taxes, it's pretty simple.
But the concern we have is what if you call it out and you end up having to pay more?
Well, I say, but you have to. So when you do it, you have to submit your comparables. So you're going to submit the comparables that you think are right. Then they're going to submit their comparables. Maybe you're wrong. So you're right. So they might reassess it, but it might not be what you want.
Isn't there a problem that during COVID there weren't very many assessments done?
No one's
So-
reassessed anything since
This is
2016.
a special. This is a one-off special. It's not across the board, right? But
Yeah, but they haven't assessed anything since 2016.
It's gonna go up.
So maybe we'll ask the question too, see if the group ends up responding as well. But yeah, we know it can happen. We had another unique situation more Katelyn was involved with, where the square footage that we bought from MPAC was not the square footage that this person was really confident that she bought. Like it was not a brand new property, but this person was pretty
She bought
confident.
it as like a 900 square foot place,
Yeah.
and then MPAC said it was 850.
Yeah, so she went to MPAC and they actually came and
Well-
remeasured.
Well, then we brought in like a floor plan guy. His came in at 750 or something, and then the previous listing said that the source was based off of measuring tape, so like that also wasn't good. But then they brought MPAC back, and they did confirm that it was in the 900s. So
So they did update it.
they updated
and that,
it.
did it help us sell the property after
Yeah, she
all?
sold it.
Okay,
She sold it that
because
day.
the buyer was pretty contentious. They wanted 900
Yeah.
square feet, and they were adamant. And so we got it fixed, and they ended up selling
She
it.
ended up selling.
Yeah.
Floor
Trust
plan
floor
guy was
plans.
really awful.
That's right.
Yeah, so maybe don't use those floor plan guys. Like this is one of our photographers that we give out quite a bit. Maybe
Okay,
just
so-
do it for the plan, but not for the square
okay, I'm
foot.
going to go back to your phase. In my world, it was phase 2,
Yeah,
phase
they
1,
didn't have
or
laser
something, right?
measures.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they teach this guys anymore, but did they not teach you guys square footage for condominiums?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So this guy that did the layout, all he did is he measured the inside rooms, came up with 700 square feet. But if you're going to do a condominium, you got to go to the middle of the demising walls. You got to go to the middle of all the outside walls. It's not just drywall to drywall. You have to go to the middle of the wall. So
But it's kind of one of
chances
those.
are I never did that.
It's kind of one of those risky things too by calling MPAC because they could have even came back even
Yeah.
smaller than like what it was. So that was a risky move to even
Yeah,
call
the client
them.
was pretty
but-
confident, and she wanted to do it, so she did all the work, went forward with it.
So why
but-
don't you go over the
Well, Chad's got his hand up.
mandatory fields?
Yeah, I will. Sorry. Was there a cost? Do you know? We can ask the agent who did.
Not sure.
We're not sure if there was a cost to come and remeasure.
I,
Might have
bet,
been.
I bet it's not.
Probably, yeah.
I don't think it is.
Well, because her.
They came pretty quick too. Like they came with less than a week.
Is it minus 5%? You have to consider minus 5% of the building's division.
But we did also warn the buyer that it may trigger their property taxes to also go up if MPAC has it at 850 and now it's 950. I don't know if that would
Yeah,
trigger them
that's
to
right.
now reassess
Now the buyer has to pay more property
taxes.
taxes.
So this is an old condominium. So all the suites in that stack are all going to get reassessed and
Oh,
have
no.
tax increases. Thanks to the owner that just
Yeah, so
moved
it
out.
got triggered.
The buyer wanted 50 square feet, but now
Yeah.
they have more taxes.
So that's why you have to like be careful with the property
So-
taxes
so I
because
think
you may
impact-
trigger it to go up.
Impact should give them a commission.
Yeah.
I had
True.
overpaid my taxes last year.
Yeah.
$3,000. I called them to complain about my taxes. They
Yeah.
told me, oh, by the way, you overpaid your taxes by $3,000. I said, how were you going to inform me? He said, the only way you would have found out is if you called in.
It's happened to me too.
Wow.
Well, so you paid the interim in full, maybe, and then by the time the
And then I
final
paid
came, it was a
again.
little bit less. And so,
No,
yeah,
I
you.
paid twice.
Oh, well, that okay. Well,
They would never have told me. No.
So you had like
no,
a
of course
credit.
not.
you had
They
like
want
a-
to just have it there sitting in their
Credit on
account.
your next.
No, she said
No,
no.
there's
They
no
didn't. They
credit.
sent me a new bill.
They didn't show the credit.
So maybe just call your.
Just keep your records, eh? That's sneaky.
They're calling you
Hanging on
about
to
your
your
attention.
extra property taxes. Interesting. So speaking
Yeah,
of.
they're not going to give you money.
No, they'll credit now that she caught it out. But yeah, she had to be the one to find it. So did anyone do their own broker load last week and see the new fields? Hopefully not. Hopefully you're using our front desk girls anyways. But did anyone try on their
It
own?
is.
So on Feb 18th, and I kind of warned everybody, but There's more fields, so as you know, they're trying to amalgamate with all these other boards, and they're trying to merge to make sure that the fields all match, right? So they just launched on the 18th mandatory fields, but there's also some fields that are going to be pulled in automatically by the address and the land registry title. So the first step when you do your broker load is putting in the address. It's actually going to search land registry, and it's going to pull up some information. So it's going to pull up things like property taxes, the year assessed. It's actually going to give you now the actual square footage of the property, and it's going to put in the automatic field that says it was found by MPAC. Now you can't, I had the question last week immediately, can I go delete it and put it back to 0? Because they didn't want the square footage to
sometimes
be
you
in
don't
there.
want it, right?
So to be honest, even though it's pulling the square footage, it's not showing up yet on the public field. And I actually don't even think that as a buying agent you can go see it. On the listing side, you can see it yourself. So it's more right now information for you to communicate with. So now you have the square footage. Instead of buying the $5 report, it's going to pull it in automatically, but it's not showing up yet on Realm. So I bet that's in the next phase. I'm sure at some point they'll turn it on so you can see it. But in a way, I want to say that now you can pull the square footage of a property without paying $5. If you make a draft
have a
listing, like you have to, I don't know if that's a proper thing to say
So
or
I
not.
hate to say it here, but this is okay. So
Sorry.
this is
We used to have it.
this is the real estate hack. Okay? Everybody wants a real estate hack. Okay, so what you do, you edit, you create a new listing for whatever property you want to get the square footage on.
Yeah.
And then you save it as a draft or delete it once you got the square footage.
Well,
I don't know.
That's where we
There's-
went. I don't know. This is
it's-
Percy Fulton. This is where you're
So
trying to give
I
you
did my own
information.
house. I did my own house just to see what's going on. Then it populated there. So I'm not listing my own house, but I just put it in there to see what it would do, and there it was. So I thought, well, I could put anybody's address in there and find out what it is. So there's.
Stop paying $5.
So I get I get the commission on your $5 you're gonna say.
Which it should. I mean, that should be free information for you. If we're going to be required to give it, it shouldn't be a paid
But it's-
profit center.
But it's going to be a mandatory field, by the way. So I
Yes.
don't know why it's not showing up on Realm. It's a mandatory field.
It's mandatory, but it's not.
It's not going to show up on the public site. It's not going to show up on Realtor.ca, but it will show up on Realm.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good idea because especially
Yes.
for condominiums, because now you get some characters out there that
Yeah.
will include the terrace as part of
Yeah.
the square footage on the condominium, which is completely not correct.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is you can override the square footage field. So if you have a different legal document that is different than MPAC and you want to showcase that, you can override it, but you can't just like black it out and put 0. It has to be a field now.
And when you override it, it has to say source. So right now
Yeah.
you've got it says the square footage and MPAC is the source is MPAC. But if you're going to change it and say round it up, like let's say you've got 3,996 square feet, you want to round it up to 4,000. Now you got to change to 4,000, but you can say input seller. It's not MPAC anymore.
There's other.
So I'd advise.
Well, no,
I'd
because
stick to
MPAC is
MPAC.
MPAC is 3,900. Now you've changed it to 4,000. Not MPAC anymore. So now what is it?
Yeah.
You've changed it. So it's either from you or from your seller.
There's a survey, it says survey type.
Yes, that's a
What
new
is that?
mandatory field. It's more related to if you have one or not.
But if it is wrong,
No, it says
Someone
survey
can challenge
type. What is a type?
Now I forget. I have to go back and look what the drop down says. Did you click on the drop
No,
down?
no, the list that they send.
No, so that's just a category, and then
It's not
within that,
mandatory.
it's going to be, it is a mandatory field now, yeah, the survey type, but I forget what the drop down is, so I'll go back and check, but I just did it last week too, so it's unfortunate. I think it says either
Part of
you,
the list. The
Yeah.
Changes are, it says
Yeah.
survey type.
Yeah.
We have only one type of survey, that's it.
well, no, but there's going to be different categories in there. They're going to have something that makes sense. So property type, so this is a kind of a strange one. You can tell that this is trying to amalgamate with like a rural board. They're asking for directions. They're like, I don't know, I put turn left on, I didn't know actually, to be honest. I put turn left on Creekview from 401 East. Like, I think it's for rural areas where, I want to put Google Maps in that field, but you do have to put some sort of direction. And then also the cross streets are still there. That was already a field that existed before. Garage, yes or no, is mandatory. Inclusion, square footage. And then there's other things like MPAC, like I said, it's pre-populating the year built, the frontage, the depth, the lot size, square footage, as well as the property type is going to be coming soon. So that's the next addition to this, is they're actually going to pull in whether it's freehold, poddle, detached, things like that. That's going to all pull through for you. So if you don't do your own broker loading and you do go with the girls, they may ask you these questions now, and it might not be part of your data sheet. And just a reminder, if the data sheet is a little bit too complicated for you, or if you don't like that style, you can actually create your draft in Realm, do the print PDF preview of that. Make sure everything is filled out. Don't do a PDF preview with half the fields filled out, that's not going to be a legal document. But if everything's filled out accordingly, then you can have your client sign that instead of the MLS data sheet. So you don't have to do both, but it's up to you. I have some teams that are still going to do both just for ease of communication and stuff, but you have that option now as well, which is pretty neat. You can also, as an agent, create your own drafts if you want to, if you're controlling like that, and then the girls can be the one to hit submit for you if you want to, but it's totally up to you how you want to do that. But you can technically create your own draft as well.
Still going on that, they've also changed your virtual tours. So right now, you'll know that if you've got a virtual tour, you can't put a branded virtual tour on your MLS, right? Everybody gives you a heck when every time you have a branded virtual. So now there's two options on there. You can have your branded virtual tour, or sorry, we can hear you guys talking. We can hear you talk too. So we've got your branded URL, one section, and you've got your unbranded URL. So the unbranded URL will go to I guess Realtor.ca right now, but the branded one will also go to Realtor.ca under the link for public link. So there's two of them. So you can actually bulk load both, the branded one and unbranded one. So that's two options you're going to have as well. You'll see once you get listings, you'll see what we're talking about.
Cynic's helping me. So the survey type, the person that needs to hear this just stepped out, so remind me to say it again. Your survey type is available. So if you have one, if it's available, if it's boundary only, none. So if you don't have one, it's a good opportunity to say you don't have one. Unknown, up to date. So maybe you had a recent survey done. So it's different categories if you have one or not, basically, and what it is. So that's a mandatory field now as well. That helps. Thank you. Anything compliance-wise for me? I mean, we change forms every week, so as long as you're using ours.
So Katelyn's going to talk about everything next, but let me just finish three things here just before you start. We're almost at time. So first of all, you got elections on Thursday, right? And you guys got this thing from Maria saying that they asked all the political parties to answer these particular questions here, and they had a little check mark. You guys, did you ever read that? They had like all the parties, and they asked these questions, and they had little check marks, who's going to do it and who's not. Doesn't really matter the questions. Maria came up with the questions, but what I thought was funny here is that the Liberals have every single question has got a check mark on it, and the PCs about 50% have check marks on it. So who's Maria voting for? All right, that's all I got. There's my political comment.
Okay.
I already voted. Did you guys vote yet? Who voted?
No, it was early voting. Is it? Can you still do it?
Make sure you vote. No,
can you still do early instead?
No, early voting's gone.
Damn.
There's something going on. You're going to hear about it. So just you might as well tell you about it right now. You know when the Americans had the co-op commission change, right? There's a big lawsuit in the States about the co-op commission, how it was price fixing because it was always 2.5%, and they all got fined. They all had to pay huge fines, billions of dollars in fines, and now in the States, there's no co-op commission on MLS. So what agents have to do, they have to get their buyers to sign a BRA, which we do already, and they never did in the States, and they got to get the buyer to pay 2.5%, and the buyer's got to pay commission. Unless they put in the offer saying that the seller agrees to credit the buyer that commission. So that's how they're doing it. It's just paperwork, right? Same thing. So the same's going to come here to Canada. Canada's two lawsuits going on right now, and in my opinion, the lawsuits were completely not liable. What they're saying to us, realtors, is that we're price fixing. They're saying that we're sitting in a room like this, and we all agree that 2.5% is going to be the co-op commission. That's going to be the standard. We've always agreed to that, and we've always done it.
No.
Is that true?
No.
Then why is it every listing has 2.5% co-op commission?
Not everyone.
How about 98% of all listings have 2.5% co-op commission? So the lawsuit says you guys are telling us you're not colluding, but what we're seeing is collusion. So they're fighting it. Korea's fighting it. Switzerland's fighting it. Other people, Treb's fighting it. So what Remax does, Remax chickens out. Now Remax Canada, just so you know, is owned by Remax USA, who just went through this stuff in the States. So the USA Americans are looking at Canada. It's the same thing. So let's settle. So they settled, basically throwing everybody else under the bus. So that was the worst thing they could have ever done. But at the end of the day, it's okay, because I don't mind if they put zero commission, because it's just paperwork anyway. So don't be all caught up like it's going to be the end of the world. In the States, they thought they were going to save money by having the co-op commission not on and do it. In fact, it's not going down at all, because the buyer's agents say, I'm not going to drive you around and show you 22 houses for 1% commission. I'm sorry, it's going to be 2.5%. All right. So you might hear a lot of buzz going on, but at the end of the day, in my opinion, it doesn't mean anything. But then geopolitical today. I don't know, what I thought was normal yesterday was not normal today. Who in the world would have ever thought to change the name of the Gulf of Mexico? Like, where did that come from? Right? Just so nowadays you don't know what the heck's going on. So don't worry about that. And then somebody came with an idea. I'm going to steal an idea here. He's in the office here right now. But somebody had an idea. Have anybody seen any listings from outside brokers, outside agents?
Yes.
Have you ever seen broker like you in Scarborough? You ever seen a listing from London?
Yes.
Right? Just another pillar, just an idea. Why don't you phone that agent up and say, look, you get any sign calls, get anything, you want somebody to show their property, give me a call, I'll give you 25% referral back.
Did we get those messages too?
All right? No, but you need to be focused on it.
Yeah.
If you see some guy from Sarnia listing a property in Scarborough, you phone that agent up and says, I don't know what you're doing with sign calls, but I like to have it and I'll reward you. Just another little conversation, phone, that's all it takes. All right? Doesn't have to be from Sarnia. It could be from
Oakville.
Mississauga.
Yeah.
could be from Oakville. It could be a downtown.
Doesn't need to be that far.
If you're downtown, it could be a downtown condominium, and some guy from the suburbs has it listed. I would contact that guy.
For like all those
You know what I mean?
realtor.ca
Yeah,
buyers.
Like how many? And I've got a complaint. Just so you know, I got a public complaint. Somebody phoned an agent, said I want to see your listing, and the agent wouldn't show them, so they made a complaint to RICO.
Did he have an agent?
Probably trying to self-rep.
No, there's no agent. But they want to see that property and that property alone. Do you want to see other properties? No, just that property. No other property. Are you qualified? Just want to see that property. Are you pre-qualified? You want to see that property. That's how the conversation went. And then finally the person told him, why don't you take it? And then that's why we got the complaint.
Maybe while you're on that point, we'll talk quickly. Like, if you have listings, you might get these calls like, hey, I don't have an agent. I want to see the house. I want you to rep me. You're not obligated just because they don't have an agent. Now,
And they're throwing words out like that.
You can, because it's a service to your seller to show the property. But if there's someone that's not qualified, or you're doing your questions and you're not feeling like you want to rep this person, you're not obligated to do so. So you can say, sorry, my friend, I'm representing my seller. They've asked me not to multiple rep this. You're welcome to go find an agent. But we've had 2 complaints of people saying, no, you have to show me because I don't have an agent and I want to see the house. And they were nasty people, and our agents didn't want to. So you're not obligated to.
And TRESA rules say you cannot work with anybody that is not under contract. You can't be paid by anybody that's not under contract.
That's right.
So you have a TRESA behind you as well.
Yeah. Just wanted that. Cool. So we did chairman's last week. It was super productive, wasn't it? I think we both said we had an amazing session. It was it's everyday work when you're like inside a conference room and then you see the pool outside. So it's like,
I'm sure most people were
Just
like, wow, they're having so much fun.
No.
We were in boardrooms all
in
day.
a dark, freezing cold, air-conditioned boardroom. We literally had blankets wrapped around us. We were so cold. But it was really productive to be around all the other Canadian owners as well. They shared a lot of information. AI was a huge topic. It was like 2 different presentations. And the only thing I'm going to say about AI is just make sure you're using it properly. There are literally like hundreds of tools there for you to use. And I'm not saying just ChatGPT and your descriptions. Like you actually, the lesson I learned with AI is that you actually have to use these tools and let it learn your personal voice and your own strategy and how you like to work. So the more you use ChatGPT with a logged in account, you have to train it to understand how you want to work and how it can use you. So don't just go in with a free account, do your description, and then leave, because it's never going to know your language, and you're always going to see the descriptions now on MLS. It's so obvious when they're ChatGPT, but it can actually customize to your own voice and to your own thing if you train it and you're using it every day and telling it like a conversation basically like you're having with it. But.
You know what somebody told me that they did with ChatGPT last week? They have a lease and they took an Equifax credit report and they uploaded the credit report to ChatGPT and says, can you tell me if this is fraudulent or not? And it came back and says it's fraudulent.
Oh, yeah. I've also seen where you put in 2 different tenant profiles. So you say tenant number 1 is this employee, makes this much a year, blah, blah, blah. Tenant number 2, and you put in your tenant options and say, ask which would be the best tenant for my client. And it can give you some ideas based on the profiles you've loaded. So I'm not going to talk about AI and all that stuff because we know we're done with it, but just use it. Please use it for your advantage and use 1 or 2 systems really well so it can learn your own style, your own strategy. That's how you're going to get the most out of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So one of the presentations that stood out to me the most, I think you have it up.
Yep.
Was the 4 agent archetypes, and I thought it was really cool
It's
and
super
kind
cool.
of reflective that you guys can pay attention to, but it basically taught us that there's only 4 different types of realtors out there. And I know we're like squirrels, and they give us any type of training out there. They teach us something new, and then we're always jumping around. But they were talking about the different types of business practices that should resonate with you, because for some people, social media marketing and all that, that's for them. And then there's other people that that's not for them. and everyone's always trying to figure out what's working the most in general. Like what works for one agent is definitely not going to work for you. So they talked about just the 4 different types of agents, and you guys should each probably fall into one of them. So they talked about, where was it? So there's difference between warm and cold leads. So there's some people that do really well with working with their sphere of influence, which is warm leads. And then there's other people that actually prefer to work with complete strangers, which is cold leads. So sometimes we'll say, call your database. And then there might be people out there that are like, I'm not calling my database.
I want to talk to my
I'd
friends.
rather talk to strangers. So either way is fine. Just make sure you figure out which one works for you so that you guys can start to make sure that your business is working the way that you want to. Direct sales approach. This is where you are directly reaching out to people one-on-one. This is a really good approach for extroverts. So if you're someone like Sanic that can talk to a wall and like anything, doing direct sales is more for Sanic.
I actually don't know. I think he needs energy. I don't know if a wall's gonna work.
Then there's indirect sales where people they prefer not to do outbound selling, but they prefer for people to call us, which I think is probably
They want
the
invitations.
majority of us.
They want people to come to them.
Yeah, we're waiting
Open
for them
houses.
to reach out.
Yeah.
So this is for people that are introverts. So if you find that you're not comfortable reaching directly out to people, you may find yourself, you like indirect sales better. So there are 4 different archetypes here. So you may either be a prospector, where you prefer to do more direct outreach and reach out to strangers. We have our converters, and I'll talk a little bit about them. These are people that like to work with strangers and like people calling them. They don't want to call them, but they want complete strangers to reach out to them. Then we've got our networkers, which are very direct, one-on-one, but they're more warm people. They're working with people in their own networks. And then we've got the marketers. So these are people that prefer, again, to work with people that they know and have people contact them. Interesting case, because I find that a lot of people want to stay in the prospecting and converter phase. They want to work with strangers. They want to do the cold calling and all of that. Prospectors has a 1 to 4% conversion rate. So if you are a person that likes to do cold calling and prospecting and stuff like that, there's only a 1 to 4% conversion rate.
Isn't that pretty crazy? Like when we heard that stat, I actually
was
thought
shook.
that was going to be the highest. It's actually the lowest of
lowest.
all 4 categories.
And this is the more traditional style of doing prospecting.
So we're not saying it's bad, but you got to be really good at cold calling and have a really good schedule and a good script to be successful at actually converting appointments from this style.
Exactly. Converters, these would be people that like to do online leads. So you're paying for online leads to come to you. This one only had
Can we guess?
a 1 to 5% conversion
like
rate.
almost as low.
Well, it's percentage you're talking about. 1 in
Percentage.
4. Okay, I thought you were 1 in 4.
No,
I thought
Sorry, percentage of
Conversions.
conversion, like ROI on being the style person. What percentage you're going to be able to convert business?
Now, marketers, and I'll talk a little bit about each. I'm going to do a training session on this because I really enjoyed this session.
So
marketers, these are people like myself that are doing social media, building an audience, building connections with people online and all of that. Can you guys guess what the conversion rate for that would be?
8%.
40%.
Yeah, it's high. Isn't it a huge difference?
40% conversion rate for those that are really good at marketing to their own networks and having people call us.
Meaning 40% chances you're going to be able to do that and convert it into an actual client.
Now, networkers, so these are people that go to like networking events. They're really good at talking to people, their own network. They're building their own.
They're having community
groups.
events, client, like they're in the community, out in
Guess
the world.
what that conversion rate is? 85.
85%.
So if you guys are stuck on the different types of personalities, these are the 2 that I would really focus on right now. This might not work for your personality type, but I did find it very interesting that those were the people that are doing the best, and they're like the most non-traditional ways. So if you're a prospector, so these are people that are comfortable reaching out to strangers, using scripts, strong sales and closings. You like to do face-to-face. You guys might be people that are good at doing like for sale by owners and reaching out directly to those types of people. Expired listings are not allowed here, but geographic farming, door knocking, cold calling. These types of people just need a very basic CRM. So if you are one of these people and you're like always caught up in what type of CRM, you just need the most basic one, and you need extensive script training. just need a basic website. You don't need a huge budget for marketing. There it is what it is. The only challenge with the prospector is you're limited by the amount of time and effort. So if you don't prospect for a day, you're already falling behind. Also, because of the shortage of leads, prospecting has limited time. So this is kind of like the more traditional way that people were doing real estate back in the day, cold calling and all of
Does
that.
anybody think they're a prospector here?
I do have some prospectors.
I think Susan, I think you too a little
yeah,
bit.
Susan, I would say, would be
Yeah.
prospecting.
Yeah, so even though the ROI is a little bit less, as long as you have your schedule and your scripts and you've got your process, which I know you do, your percentage will be higher versus the average agent, right?
Yeah. Okay, now if you're a converter, so do I have anyone that's doing online leads here? Or like step websites, landing pages? I know Mo.
Yeah.
So these agents prefer to work with people that are, again, outside of their sphere. They don't want to work with their own network, and they want people to call them. So these types of people need to have a source of leads that you can depend on. So you're either doing open houses, doing lead generation sites like Agent Locator, or even other agents, so agent-to-agent networking. If you're a converter, you do need to have a sophisticated CRM. So Follow Up Boss, all of those. You don't need a basic one. You need a very sophisticated one to keep track of these leads. For websites, you need to have a lead capture website with good search function, and you should be tech savvy. So that was a really interesting thing that I saw. So a lot of people want to get into online leads, but they're not tech savvy. This will not work for you. The other ways might work. The challenges are it's expensive, and you become dependent on those outside sources for your business.
That makes sense, Mo? It kind of sounds like in line, right?
Right?
So again, just because we said the percentage was low doesn't mean your conversion is going to be low. Just means you have to spend extra work and have a really good system, right?
I think they said at conference 1 in 1,600 or 16,000 is a sale. I think it's 1,600.
It was a pretty harsh
1 in
number.
1,600 leads
Yeah, 1,600.
converts. That was a crazy. That was from the U.S.
Yep. Where?
You don't have the website where we can get you for sale by order?
That I have no idea.
This company used to list it and
They
sell.
went out of business.
We're not
Yeah.
out of business
They went out of business.
because we're not allowed to do it in Canada. But
Oh, for sale by owners.
oh, for sale by owners. Yeah.
Maybe
true.
like Kijiji, Facebook Marketplace. Some owners may put their stuff
That's
on there, but
true.
you have to like be careful if it's another agent posting it. But
Yeah.
sometimes they may post it on
Mike
your
Ferry,
website.
Mike Ferry's got that company called Red something.
Right.
they
So-
stopped it. Eh?
No, the Americans are still doing it. The guy in
Okay.
Canada called Mace stopped it.
Sorry?
Mace stopped it in Canada, but I think Mike Ferry's Red, whatever it was, Red
Redfin?
something is still there.
Redfin?
No.
Red X, there we go.
All right. Do I have my networkers? I feel like I've got more networkers than anybody in this business.
I think so. Who do you
Who's a
think?
networker? Do you think?
Would that be me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Heavily. Okay, so networkers. These are people that are really good at connecting with people, building relationships. You're going to like sporting activities, church groups, real estate conferences, stuff like that.
They have client parties every year.
But you guys are comfortable doing outbound communication and actually asking for business from these people. So if you are a networker, you should be making time in your day for daily time for calls to people, doing personal handwritten cards to people, pop-bys, going on lunches, coffee dates, and hosting client appreciation events throughout the year. You only need a basic CRM, so you don't need to get crazy and get all these CRMs. You just need a basic one that just does monthly mailouts, birthdays, and anniversaries. If you have a website, you should have one that has, it's kind of basic, but shows client testimonials on it. Your budget should be for social activities, so going out, lunches, parties, mailers. Sounds about right for Sanic.
and morale too.
And then they even said that you're usually plugged in and you'll likely use social media to tell your story and build your identity.
Yep.
Challenges with networkers is it's difficult to scale your efforts. Like once your network gets so big, it's hard to keep going. And then you fall into a comfort zone trap and you only do things that you're comfortable with and only interact with people that you already know. So sometimes it's harder to go meet strangers. Do I have any marketers in my group? Marketers? No? Okay, so these agents typically like to engage with their sphere of influence through branding and marketing. Typically, you're reaching out to people through social media, video marketing, billboards, print publications. You thrive on repeat and referral business. So you prefer to have your friends, family, and past clients give you business versus working with complete strangers. So things that you may like to use is doing listing marketing plans. So you're on social media, you're on the videos, you're promoting your listings in a really cool way. You're using branding apps, social media, and video. And you also only need a basic CRM. That was about it.
I think the Fulton sisters.
Yeah, I
are
think
in
we're
this
marketers
category.
and networkers. For your website, you should have a unique website, maybe spend a little bit more money talking about your different marketing strategies and consumer-based content. So you like thrive on telling people what your marketing plans are, and that's what people like you for. Challenges is you have to be up to date with expert knowledge in all your content. So you should be doing market updates and really communicating on videos and on your platforms about what's happening. It could require a lot of time, effort, and there's the challenge of building that audience. So yeah, these are the 4 different ways. There's no one that fits all, but I thought it was cool that you probably do notice if you fit into one of those, and if you do, you should be basing your entire business on this. So if you're a networker and you're like, oh, I should be doing cold calling because someone told you to do cold calling, like that might not work for your personality. But if you're scared and shy, you don't want to talk to your friends and family, then you better get on the phones and start cold calling some strangers, right? So figure out what you're comfortable with, and that's how you should run your business. So I think I'm going to do a training session on this in March and maybe go a little bit more in depth to figure out how we can help you guys, but I thought it was a cool presentation.
Do you guys like that kind of stuff, or how do you feel?
Yeah.
I think it's kind of fun to understand kind of who you are and how to adapt your business to that. We also did the DISC analysis, which is more like personality based, and that was kind of fun to see that some brokers were actually using it for their agents to understand how you work and how we can better coach you and manage you and mentor you as well. So that could be a whole other different session where we all do personality testing, and it's good for you to understand how you operate as well, right? So good introspective kind of thinking.
Yep. Cool. That's all I got. Wednesday is awards.
Who's all going to awards? Hands up.
It's not just for award winners, it's for everybody. We also have Ben Rabideau coming in the morning.
Yep.
He's a really well-known economist. I think he's like got over 400,000 people following him on Twitter. Like he's really big on Twitter.
Yeah, it's going to be analytics. So I don't know how like rah it's going to be, but I think it's going to be really important. And I think feedback that I get is that you like the market kind of update stuff as opposed to like necessarily the rah and the actual core training stuff, right? So I think
People are just confused about where the market's going.
Yeah.
So why not bring in an economist to actually tell you where they think the market's going instead of us just try to predict it based off of news articles. He's going to show us straight facts on what's going on. Everything starts at 9:30.
Yeah.
Varan's going to be sponsoring a coffee networking hour, and then I think Ben starts talking around 10.
10:30, 10, yeah.
Yeah. And then we'll end that, and then we'll have a little break. Lunch, awards.
Parkview
Manor.
Yeah, we would finish around 2:30, 3.
I think even 2, honestly.
Probably 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
But if you're not an award
2:30?
winner, you should still come see who the award winners are, come network.
Come see Ben, yeah.
Get energy, come listen to Ben. It'll be a really good day. Yeah, it's a motivation.
Cool. I just had a question from online, and I have been getting this question a lot, is how do you handle other agents who are using your photos on ads without your consent? So we just advise to let them know politely that they don't have consent to use your own photos and just ask them to take it down. If it's like a new listing and they want to buy your photos, it's up to you if you want to charge them and be collaborative that way. You also don't have to. But it works both ways. Don't steal other people's photos without consent. And if you see someone using your photos, just reach out to them. I would not advise to like quote like the Tressa bylaw, blah, blah, blah. Like don't just collaboratively say, hey, you know, my seller doesn't want their photos online, but put it back on the client that you need permission from the clients to do that.
Sometimes you get the agent to pay half for what you already paid. You paid $400 for the photos, and they're using your photos. Tell, look,
$100 and
give me $200 and they're yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if someone asks you to advertise your listing?
Yeah, or if they took over a listing that you used to have and it's not your
it's
listing
tenanted.
anymore. Maybe it's tenanted and you took whatever it is, and you want to sell your original photos. You can do that too.
Yeah.
Like somebody will show summer photos, but it's winter, so they can use your summer photos.
And I get the question: Can I just?
Well,
can I just take it from MLS and put it on mine? No, don't do that.
They do it without even asking you.
No, ask for permission. You don't want. This is now.
We
We're
had-
not in the world of asking.
We
getting in trouble,
had
so.
smart people that took someone else's photo and they photoshopped the company's name on the bottom and put their own name back.
Wow, that's really fancy. I mean, don't do that. Yeah, we don't do that as Percy Fulton agents.
That why when it says permission to advertise on the listing isn't permission to advertise, it's permission to reach out and ask permission to advertise. So be careful with that.
Yes.
Just want to run down a quick thing and we're finished here. What time is it?
2.
Ouch. Okay. Home buyer's plan. What's the maximum now?
Oh gosh.
$60,000. All right. Then you got your first-time home buyer savings plan, $40,000, right? Then you got a first-time home buyer's tax credit, $1,500 credit. Then you got the new housing HST credit. We know about that one anyways, right? If somebody wants to modify their house to make it more accessible, there's a $1,500 tax credit for that. If somebody wants to have their grandmother come to the house or somebody else, a multi-generation home, there's a $7,500 tax credit for that. So there's about 4 or 5 different things. So if you're looking for ammunition for your social media, then there's 4 or 5 things right there. All you have to do is read what I just did, and you've got yourself a social media thing going on. You don't have to read them all at once. I would stretch it over 5.
It's called a reel.
Real.
It's called a reel.
Which Chris came in last week and did some content planning. I was really disappointed that only one person did it. But I think like a lot of people keep asking us about videos. I think Nazir did it. He had a really great photo shoot or video because he was the only one that
Now you've got
signed up
content.
for it.
How much piece of the content did you get, Nazir?
Do you know how many videos you got?
How many videos? Not yet. Okay.
You guys, 4 videos,
So you have
right?
4. So it's a whole month of content, basically.
Yeah. So if that's something you're thinking about, I know that you guys are, and you guys always want me to teach you. Like, I don't do my own videos. I hire out to do that stuff. So if you're thinking about doing videos, like, call Chris. He'll still offer you guys that service.
He's the one who also set up the Brampton thing too.
He's the one that got all these reels that we keep going viral on. They're all the ones that Chris creates for us because it's not even a content that we probably would have picked out ourselves, but he knows what's going to make the public angry and mad at us and get the views. So he's not going to do your cookie cutter type of content. Maybe he'll, like, the first couple sessions will be just to get comfortable in front of a camera, but then he's going to start to give you guys content that actually, like, hits and gets people to find you. So
Yeah. And if you're not a marketer and you're a prospector
This is for the
or a
marketers,
or a
my
converter, no
marketers.
problem. Don't worry.
yeah, you're right. That's for my marketers.
Yeah. Cool. Any last words? Tales from street? Everyone's going to get tons of listings this week? Yes? It's going to happen. Market's good. Don't pay attention to all the other blah, blah, blah out there.
And everyone's just sing the national anthem every morning.
Every morning, sing "O Canada."
Tell you what, with one thing he did, he brought us all together. I'll tell you that.
right?
I saw Michael Yim's picture the other day. Anybody see Michael Yim's picture on
No.
his social media? They're standing in front of I don't know, some kind of house with a big flag behind it.
No, because it was the Canadian Flag Day the day before.
Oh, Flag Day.
Flag
Yeah,
Day.
Oh,
Flag
it's
Day.
Flag Day?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's Flag
all
Day.
right.
See?
I saw something.
But there you go. Generational teams are taking advantage of anything you can do on social media. It was Flag Day. Yeah. That's good.
I still love Canada.
It's funny, Canada's so multicultural. Imagine the United States does something there. We're going to get all your cousins and all your brothers when the whole world's going to be on our side. So, so good luck.
Yeah, we're all going to stick together, right? That's good.
Even my family in the States are like, go Canada.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone, we are getting the same messages too. Yeah. All right, well, have a good week, and we will all see you on Wednesday for your celebrations. Take care.